The best supergroup for every decade. As always, totally subjective. The 1960s, easily. Crosby, Stills, and Nash, probably one of the 2 or 3 greatest supergroups in music history. Yeah, David Crosby from the Byrds, me being a big Bob Dylan fan, I love that. Stephen Stills of Buffalo Springfield, Graham Nash of the Hollies. All 3 were great together. They had good chemistry, but the harmonies they made were sensational. You'll never see harmonies like that ever again, especially for a supergroup. Eventually, they added Neil Young, obviously, but as far as those 3, just those 3 right there, Crosby, Stills, and Nash, they to me are the best of the 60s and very well could be the greatest supergroup of all time. The 1970s, absolutely Emerson, Lake, and Palmer. Keith Emerson from The Nice, Greg Lake, great voice from King Crimson, and of course you had Carl Palmer from Atomic Rooster. These guys felt like a glove. It was Keith Emerson as a great keyboardist, one of the greatest keyboardists of all time, Greg Lake's powerful voice, Carl Palmer's unique drumming technique. They're able to fuse jazz music, classical rock music, and hard rock music together to essentially create masterpieces all about the 1970s. They, to me, are quite easily the greatest supergroup of the 1970s. 1980s, to me, is the greatest supergroup of all time. It's going to be the Traveling Wilburys. Didn't quite have the longevity as the aforementioned Crosby, Stills, and Nash and Young, or Emerson, Lake, and Palmer, mainly because Roy passed away pretty young in the late 80s. But Roy Orbison, Bob Dylan, Tom Petty, Jeff Lynne, George Harrison, superstars, every single one of them. Bob Dylan, best songwriter of all time, in my opinion. Roy Orbison, probably the best voice of the 50s. Tom Petty, superstar with Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. George Harrison was a Beatle, one of the most important ones at that. Jeff Lynne, still the lead dog for ELO. I don't think we'll ever see a supergroup as big or as talented as this one ever again. The Highwaymen had a great case as well because they were loaded with legends too, but to me, I'm always taking the Traveling Wilburys probably over every supergroup. The 1990s absolutely has to be Temple of the Dog for a variety of reasons, but the main reason, basically, it was Pearl Jam before Pearl Jam. It was basically a love letter to Andrew Wood from Mother Love Bone. It was Chris Cornell, Eddie Vedder, Jeff Ament, Mike McCready, Stone Gossard, and Matt Cameron. This obviously began the awesome relationship between Eddie Vedder and Chris Cornell. Call Me a Dog, Say Hello to Heaven, obviously a Hunger Strike probably being their best one. Hugely influential, and who knows if we get Pearl Jam if not for Temple of the Dog. The best 2000 supergroup to me is going to be Audioslave, another Chris Cornell masterpiece. It was Chris Cornell plus Rage Against the Machine, Tom Morello, Brad Wilk, and Tim Comerford. It was very cool to see. It was the explosive rhythm of Rage Against the Machine combining with Chris Cornell's amazing voice that helped provide more of an emotional alternative to both acts. Insanely talented. Like I said, Tom Morello, one of the best guitarists of his time. Chris Cornell, one of the best voices of his time. Brad and Tim did their roles perfectly. Their first album went triple platinum. I do believe Audioslave is the best supergroup of the 2000s. The 2010s one is kind of a bummer because we haven't seen a lot of them, but to me it's going to be them Crooked Vultures. Josh Homme from Queens of the Stone Age, John Paul Jones, probably the best bassist of all time. Dave Grohl of Nirvana and Foo Fighters, whether it's drums, whether it's vocals. Talent-wise, they might be the most talented 3-piece band of the last X amount of years, but